Yeah, so ain't life grand, y'all. So the quiz for talk today. The overall average was 63.8. Not so grand. However, it is what it is, and we're going to move forward and hopefully do better on the test, which is on Thursday. Don't forget. Okay, so first question was find the measure of angle 0, or O, I should say. So the overall average on this question was 63%. So the way we solve this is you could do it one of two ways. You can add the three angles together, M and O, right? And this set them equal to 180. So we could say, let's just start with N because that's 90 degrees. So that's my first question for y'all. Did all of y'all know that that's 90 degrees? Because it's a right angle. So it's going to be 90 plus 2x plus 1 plus 5x plus 5, and set that equal to 180. So if we did the problem that way, it would be 7x plus 96, because if you add those three numbers together, these three like terms equals 180, right? Then we're going to subtract 96 from both sides. So that gives us 7x equals 84, and then we divide both sides by 7, right? So that means x is equal to 12. Now, that is not what the question's asking us for. And notice that was one of our answers. C was one of our answers, that 12, but that's not the answer to this question. So we need to plug that back in to find the measure of the angle. Okay, so that's really key, guys. It's not asking us to find x, it's asking us to find the measure of the angle. So measure of angle O, and oh, by the way, the other way you could have done this is you could have, knowing that this was 90, then when you add these two together, they also have to equal 90, right? So that's the other way we could have solved this problem. Either way, you would have got x is equal to 12. So when we plug that back into this angle right here, this is the angle we're looking for, right? O, it's going to be 5 times 12, which is 60, plus 5. So the answer was 65 degrees, okay? So that was our answer right there, 65 degrees. All right, so with the next question, number 2, given the measure of angle 1 was 18x plus 12, the measure of angle 3 was 24x minus 18, solve for the measure of angle 4. So first of all, I'm going to say we have 18x plus 12 here, and we have, let's move that out of the way, 24 x minus 18. So hopefully you can see that these are vertical angles. They are congruent, right? They're opposite each other. And if you look at the letter that the top part of this angle makes, it's a V, right? V for vertical. Okay, so what we're going to do, because those are congruent, we're going to set those two angles equal to each other. So we have 18x plus 12, and that's going to be equal to 24x minus 18. So we're going to subtract 18 from both sides, 18x, right? So that's now gone from there, and we have 6x over here. And we're going to add 18 to both sides. So now that 18's gone from there, and this is equal to 30. So now we divide both sides by 6. So x is equal to 5. Again, it didn't ask us for x, and notice that A was one of the answer choices. But it does ask us to solve for the measure of angle 4. Okay, so now that means we could plug that 5 back into angle 1 or back into angle 3, but we're going to have to plug it into one of them, because the only way to solve for 4 is to use the linear pair postulate, the fact that either 4 and 1 make a straight line or 3 and 4 make a straight line. Okay, so I'm going to show y'all right here. See this straight line? So now let's go ahead and put that 5. So 18 times 5 would be, let's see, I'm trying to see where I did my math here. 18 times 5 plus 12, so that's going to be 90 plus 12, which is 102 degrees for that angle. Now, again, you could have put it down at the bottom. Doesn't matter which one you do it in. 24 times 5 is 120, and 120 minus 18 is still 102. So what I need you guys to notice is that we have two angles that form a line. So to find this angle over here, we're going to take 180 and we're going to subtract from it the 102. So this angle right here was 78 degrees, right? And that was the answer, C, right there, okay? So here's our next question. Number 3 says, which is the correct step reason for step 2. So notice that we have the measure of angle A is equal to the measure of angle B, and then the measure of angle B is equal to the measure of angle A. We do not have the same thing on both sides of the equal sign, which is what we would have to have the reflexive property. We did not substitute something in to solve, so it's definitely not the substitution property. Transitive means we have 3 things, guys. And do we have 3 things? No, we only have 2 things, okay? So it's not the transitive property. So basically, what do you notice happens in this problem? Don't they flip? Y'all understand? Okay, so they flipped on the over the equal sign. That is one of the things that helps me see that it's a symmetric property, besides the fact that the symmetric property has 2 things. So what I also taught my students is when it's reflexive property, it's one thing. And obviously that can't be the answer, right? Then when it's the symmetric property, that's 2 things. And we do have 2 things here. And then the transitive property is 3 things, okay? So that's the way you need to keep that straight. And this was a pretty low scoring question. Actually, it was the lowest scoring question on the test or on the quiz, y'all. So we need to get that straight for the next assessment, our test on Thursday, okay? So here's the next one. ABC is rotated 90 degrees clockwise about the origin. Ooh, after. There's that word, y'all. Being translated along the vector 2, 3. So that means that we're going to translate A along the vector, because it says, what are the coordinates of the final image point of A after this compositional transformation? So A, if we look right here, is -1, 3. And we're going to translate it first. So this is our first thing that's going to happen, right? That's our second thing that's going to happen. That's really key, guys, okay? So that means we're going to add 2, and we're going to add 3, right? So that's going to give me, for A prime, 1, 6, right? Then we're going to do our clockwise rotation, because that means we're going down here. And what is that rule down there, y'all? Isn't that y comma -x? Okay, so that's the rule we're going to use, y comma -x. So they flip. Isn't that right? A double prime, they flip 6 comma 1. And which one changed signs? The x value, right? So the answer here was C. So number 5, again, was a pretty low scoring question, 56%. It says, given that these lines are parallel, which it says on the, actually, let me move this over so y'all can see it, that P is parallel with Q, and we know that because it's got that extra set of arrows on it, right? And then it says, prove that angle 1 is congruent with 2. Okay, so we're working down through here. Yes, that's parallel. 1 and 3 are definitely corresponding angles and they're congruent. So what is the relationship right here between 3 and 2, guys? So it's saying that angle 3 is congruent to angle 2. Aren't they opposite each other? And doesn't this form a, y'all see this V right here? That is a V, yes, if you turn it. So these are vertical angles. That's the vertical angles theorem, okay, guys? Not sure why people keep missing this, but all right, so on this next one we did pretty good on, 84%. So that means the whole angle, it says the measure of ABC is 107, right? So we're going to add these two together. We're going to add these two together and set them equal to 107. So 4x plus 2 plus 3x minus 7 is equal to 107. That's going to be 7x minus 5 equals 107. Add 5 to both sides, right? So 7x equals 112. 7 goes into 112. X is equal to 16, right? And this time we are solving for x, so our answer was B. So we really did good on this question, guys. So notice that we have that B is equal to E. So you know what? I'm just going to repeat this over there, 83 degrees, right? And then A is congruent to D because it's got 2 arcs, right? So I'm going to put the 42 degrees right here. So it doesn't really matter which one of those we solve for, right? We're going to do the triangle sum theorem. So we're going to add 42 plus 83, right? And that equals 125. And aren't we going to subtract that from 180 because the triangle sum theorem tells us that all 3 angles have to equal 180 degrees, right? So this time it's 55 degrees. And that means that's 55 as well as that, right? Okay. So our answer was D. All right. So with number 8, it says if S is parallel to T, given the figure, solve for X and Y. So look here. Do you notice these angles are same side interior angles? So with this one, we're going to add them together and set them equal to 180, aren't we? Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. 65 plus 7 is 72, right? So 6x plus 72 equals 180. Subtract 72 from both sides, so 6x equals, what is that, 108. So x equals 18 because we divide both sides by 6, right? Then we're going to solve for this other angle. So again, those two formed a same side interior. Remember, they're not the same shape. Because they're not the same shape, we add them together, set them equal to 180. Now notice here, we now have a pair that form a line, don't we? So we're now going to solve for our y by doing 65 plus y plus 9 equals 180, right? Because those two form a line. So 65 plus 9 is, 65 plus 9 is 74, right? So we're going to subtract 74 from 180. So y is going to be equal to, what is that, 106? Indeed. So the answer was D. So here's our last two. We got 54% on 9, and I was a little disappointed on this one, y'all, because these two remote interior angles, when I add them together, they just equal this exterior angle out here, y'all. And so 75 plus 36 is equal to 111. Now, some of y'all subtracted that from 180. I do not know why. That would not be the case. Okay, so now if this was 111 right here, if we wanted to find this angle right here, yes, we would subtract that 111 from 180 to get that angle, but that is not the angle. That is not what we were trying to find. We were trying to find the exterior angle, okay? All right, so here's our last one. It's asking us about angle 4 and angle 8. So it's given us an equation for 4 and given us an equation for 8. So let's look and see what the relationship is, given that these lines are parallel. And it should have said that, y'all. Okay, so angle 4 is congruent with angle 8, okay? If that's true, don't we set them equal to each other? Do we 7x plus 11 equals 9x minus 7? So we're going to subtract 7x from both sides. That's now gone. So now we got 2x over here. And we're going to add 7 to both sides. So that's going to be equal to 18. So we're now going to divide both sides by 2, right? So x is equal to 9. But is that what the question asked for? Because the most chosen wrong answer was indeed A. Okay, so it's asking us to solve for angle 8, right? So that means we're going to plug this value back into right here, right? So we're going to do 9 times 9, that's 81, minus 7. 81 minus 7 is exactly that, 74 degrees, okay? So the answer here was C. All right, I'm going to go over the bonus, and then we'll be done. So I went a little longer than I told y'all, but it's all good. So here again, we're going to add these two angles together, and we're going to set them equal to this one. That's how we do this, okay? So we're going to do 9x plus 16 plus 6x plus 15, and that's equal to 19x plus 3. So the two that are not beside the exterior angle, those are the ones we're always going to add together. We've got our like terms right here, so that's going to be 15x. We got a pair of like terms right there, that's plus 31. That's equal to 19x plus 3. Subtract 15x from both sides. So that's gone from there, and that's going to give us 4x over here. We're going to subtract 3 from both sides. So that's going to give us 28. How many times does 4 go into 28? X is equal to 7, right? Now, what must we do with that? We must plug it back in, right? So let's just do the measure of angle WXZ. That's this one right here, guys. That's that. So we're going to do 19 times 7 plus 3. And that was equal to 136. You can do that right in your calculator, right? Now let's go ahead and go on and do just this angle right here. Actually, let me show you this angle right here, right? That's not got an equation in there, but we know that those two angles, these two angles form a line, right? So can't we say the measure of angle YW at Z is equal to what? 180 minus 136. So that angle was equal to 44 degrees, right? So for the other two angles, we're just going to, let me clean this up a little bit so you guys can see what I'm talking about. So now we're going to do Y, which is up here. So the measure of angle Y is equal to 9 times 7, that's 63, plus 16 is equal to, let me see what I had for Y, 79 degrees. Okay, and our last one is, we're going to go back to our blue right here. This one, right? Z. So the measure of angle Z is equal to 6 times 7, which is 42, plus 15 is 57 degrees, right? Now, remember, I could have checked this, right, by adding 1, 2, 3, those two angles together. And if I do that, they do equal 180 degrees. So remember, guys, our test is test on Thursday, okay? Do the practice problems that are on the e-class as well, because that's going to help you guys with the test.